Well, a heatwave is gripping several European countries with soaring temperatures, fanning fires, closing schools and breaking heat records. Dr. Samantha Burgess is the Deputy Director of the Copernicus Climate Programme. She says Europe's infrastructure may not be equipped to deal with the unprecedented heat.
So we're seeing a record-breaking continental heatwave that's affecting large parts of Western Europe and Mediterranean Europe. And the heat wave is really caused by a combination of three different factors. One is the record high concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. The second one is the record high sea surface temperatures in the Mediterranean and other oceanic regions. And the third one is the weather system that's impacting Europe at the moment. So it's called a heat dome or a blocking high weather system, which creates a very stable, very warm environment with no wind, which is why we're seeing these heat records being broken over the last few days.
Yes, and Europe, though, isn't immune to a regular summer heat wave, but how does this compare to previous ones?
Yes, that's right. So July is normally the warmest month for Europe, and the heat wave that we're seeing right now is normally something that we would anticipate seeing towards the end of July or early August. So the record temperature for Europe was recorded on the 11th of August in 2021 in Sicily, and that was 48.8 degrees. So the temperatures that we've seen over the last few days in Spain and Portugal are up at 46 degrees, which is 5 to 10 degrees, depending on where you are, above the climatology of what you'd expect for this time of year.
And so what do these figures tell us in general about global warming?
Well, they tell us that global warming is here and it's impacting everyone around the world right now. And we know that with climate change, heat waves are getting more intense, they're getting more frequent, and they're impacting a larger geographical area. So we need to adapt rapidly, particularly in Europe, where we have very old infrastructure, to adapt to our changing, much hotter climate.
Yes, and the UN's Met Agency is saying that Europe is the world's fastest warming continent. Why is that?
Yes, that's right. So Europe is warming at twice the global average rate. And again, there's three reasons why it's warming at twice the average rate. And the first reason is that land areas are warming up faster than the ocean, and there's a lot of land in the European domain. The second one is that the Arctic is the fastest warming region on our planet. And the Arctic is warming at 3 to 4 times the global average rate. And there's part of the Arctic region within the European domain, so northern Scandinavia and Greenland. And the third reason is due to legislative changes that have improved air quality across Europe. That has reduced the amount of clouds that we see, particularly in summer, low-level clouds that were seeded by atmospheric pollutants. They are no longer being emitted by industry across Europe. So that means we've got clearer skies, so Europe has gotten sunnier. And because it's sunnier, we're getting more of the sun's energy hitting the surface of the Earth, which is leading to more temperature increases as well.
Samantha, you spoke earlier of insufficient infrastructure to deal with heat waves like this. But, we've seen policies pioneered by European governments to reduce carbon emissions, and yet we see these figures. It begs the question, what more can the continent be doing?
So there's still a lot that can be done. When we look at the trajectory of the commitments that have been made in the climate COPs, we're currently on a trajectory of 2.8 degrees of global warming. And right now, we're above 1.35 degrees of global warming compared with the pre-industrial period. So we need to rapidly reduce greenhouse gas emissions everywhere, including in Europe, but the rest of the world as well, to really draw down that curve to make sure we can get as close to 1.5 as possible. We know as well that extreme events happen more frequently, they happen more intensely, the warmer our climate is. So a direct result of that is heat waves, droughts, and wildfire risk are all increasing due to the record high temperatures that we've seen over the last couple of years and record high greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere.
Yes, mitigating the impacts of global warming is the most important thing here, but there are flow-on impacts, for instance, the financial impact. What are we expecting on that front? How badly can Europe be hit financially with something like this?
Yeah, so extreme events have a huge economic cost associated with them. One of the worst heat waves that Europe suffered was in 2019, and a scientific study showed that there were 60,000 excess deaths associated with the heat waves that summer. So there's a huge impact on loss of life, unexpected loss of life due to heat stress. There's huge pressure on healthcare infrastructure. It really impacts mobility as well. So at these sort of temperatures, roads melt in Europe, train lines buckle. So that changes the ability for people to move around. And then, of course, there's delays and traffic jams and crowds, which then create more heat stress. And there's huge heat island effects in Europe as well. So we really need to adapt, try and green our cities as much as possible and create cool refuges and enable behaviour change to enable European citizens to understand what to do when it's extremely hot outside and how to change their behaviour to keep their houses and buildings as cool as possible.
Okay, Dr. Samantha Burgess, really good to get your thoughts on this. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.